Let me bring in our guest this morning, of course, earlier on State of the Nation, that's where we were. But let's talk security. And this is really a fluid situation, a lot of information coming in thick and fast. Mheshimiwa, let's hear your thoughts on security and how we keep still having these incidents.
Again, I join Millie in sending our pole to the students of the community at Garissa, and this is a horrible thing for us as a country. Without doubt, this is another terror attack. But I don't want to lead too much into it, but it's good to note that in Nigeria, 200 kids were taken, and the government seems to have done nothing for a period of 2 years. When the elections were at the corner, we could see action, and Boko Haram was like being wiped out in weeks. And I know we've been talking about the issue of corruption. There was also a lot of allegations of corruption in Nigeria. And my take on this is that the government has to be very hard on corruption and also very hard on security and insecurity in the country.
Okay. Millie, given that Garissa has been a spot where we've seen, violence and these terrorist attacks left, right, and center, what is it that maybe can be done to ensure that this security is enhanced, given that even this is now university, and like Mheshimiwa Kioni is saying, in Nigeria we already have history of what can happen?
Well, I can't purport to be a security expert, but I'd want to say that I think the government needs to take the issue of security a little more seriously. And I had opportunity in the last parliament to go there to Garissa with the Prime Minister when there was an attack in Garissa. It was very unfortunate. We went when it had just happened, and it was really, really a horrific scene. I went to the hospital, we saw the injured, we saw how the market was destroyed, private property. And I don't think it's something that really people should be able to go through. So I think the government is not putting as much effort, especially on the issue of the porosity of our borders, that we need to be very, very careful about how we handle our borders, because we have Somalis who are not Kenyans, who can easily come into Kenya, and because of similarities, sometimes it's very difficult to know who are the Kenyan Somalis and who are not. So I think the government needs to be very, very serious about that. But again, I'd want to encourage Kenyans that you can see we've never had an issue of religious intolerance. And these guys are trying to move this country in that direction. So I'd want to encourage Kenyans that we should not allow ourselves to be moved in that direction. And I'd want to encourage our Muslim brothers to really rise to the occasion, especially now, when you could see clearly from what these guys are saying that the attacks seem to have been directed at people who are praying Christian in the Christian Union. And I'd also want to encourage our religious Christian religious leaders who so far have really done a commendable job and acted with a lot of restraint. And I'd want to encourage that we continue that way. It's not about our brothers in Garissa. It's about people with, warped minds and who are probably not even Kenyans. Most likely they're not even Kenyans. So I just want to encourage that as Kenyans we continue being cohesive, but at the same time ask on the government to act a little more firmly on the issue of security. I think what I've seen is that when we are under attack, we remove all our arsenals. And as soon as it's over, business as usual. Okay. And if you've have had the occasion to go to countries where they take security seriously, like Israel, and Kenya needs to learn from there. The way Israel operates, it's like there's an imminent attack every 1 minute.
24/7.
24/7.
Right.
Every corner you go, there's you can see intelligence all over. You can see people, armed people, and they are prowling like they're just about to be attacked. Kenya needs to operate in that mode.
All right, Maina, given that corruption and security have a very close relation, because some of these illegal arms, illegal immigrants would probably have come in illegally through corruption. What would you say to Kenyans? Because corruption is really something that we should be fighting right from the top to the bottom. It is not just about the leaders, it is not just about the president. We all have a hand in it, and we need to be serious so that we can also now look at security.
First, it's very sad that this is happening again in Kenya, and that at a time when perhaps we've been struggling to heal, given the past attacks. But I think given what the students have told us, you begin to feel we are not yet doing sufficient deployment for timely reaction. We might not be able as a country to totally forestall all attacks, but it is the timely reaction that would make a difference. That if it is nearly 3.5 hours and people are still saying we need more deployment, we are still stuck in this building, that tells you there is something that we are not doing on time. And I think it's just to ask the president and the cabinet secretary, the Honorable Ngaiseri, to sometimes not continue issuing those threats, but to learn to transform those threats into serious action, so that once and for all we can say we will be able to frustrate terrorists who want to attack us. But again, I think is to request Kenyans that when these attacks happen, sometimes we tend to be divided on different lines, politically, religiously, ethnicity, clanism in Garissa. We need to raise beyond those divisions and help each other, rally around each other and save the country. Because if we let this to continue to happen, we can easily lose the country. And for me, this is particularly important in line with the discussion we are having on corruption. If you look at the issues or some of the cases, and most of them are within the office of the president and internal security. We need to rein into those corruption and begin to make it clear. I also point out that we noticed, for instance, the recent changes on the public audit bill, which requires that the security agencies' audit reports might not be made public. So it sends a wrong signal. Here we are saying we all need to rally and fight corruption, but we seem to be making the national security the last enclave of secrecy and corruption. So we need to be able to crack a whip on these once and for all, and punish people within the security agencies. When we review this, try and think Westgate happened, we said we will leave no stone unturned. Right. Up to today, we've not done sufficient engagement. Parliament took lots of Kenyan money to do investigation and rejected the report themselves. So where are we as ordinary Kenyans? I think our leaders ought to rise to this, and it's not going to be tolerated. I guess Honorable Kioni intimated what can happen. Governments lose legitimacy when they window dress such big challenges that face the country.
Thank you very much.
I think maybe there's something that you've raised on the proliferation of small arms. And I act as the chairperson of the Parliamentarians for Global Action, which is an entity that works around issues of, security, rule of law, human rights. Right. And one of the concerns, in fact, we have just written a letter to the Minister the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, Honorable Ngaiseri, that Kenya has not shown the same level of commitment that we are expecting. There's even a treaty that we were right at the beginning, part of the initiators of that treaty. And to date, Kenya has lost ground. And we are asking Kenya to show seriousness, both at the international level, on the treaty on small arms, and also at the local level, because there's a lot of proliferation of small arms through corruption, just as you said. So if you look at the issue of the small arms and corruption, because they also basically come in through corruption of our officers at the borders especially. So the government needs to show a lot more seriousness around those issues. They have not shown it. And again, as Honorable Kioni says, we can see what happened with Nigeria can very easily happen here in Kenya. And Nigerians made me so happy because they disregarded issues of ethnicity, of religion, and they said all we want is a working government.
Right.
So if the president does not take it seriously, come 2017, Kenya will make a roll call based on how he responded to insecurity, how he responded to corruption.
Okay.
Just a quick
All right.
one, if you allow me.
We'll continue. We are continuing with this discussion. We'll keep you a little bit longer. We will not be having our Fitness Thursday as usually we do, of course, owing to the breaking news that we are following for you this morning and discussing as well with our panelists, just getting their sense on security and what can be done to ensure Kenyans, no matter where they are safe. And whilst you cannot perhaps do away with the tax, sometimes, as Henry was saying, it's knowing that people will be able to get there in good time, that this is still unfolding 3 hours on is really of concern. We will seek to perhaps get in touch with the police spokesperson and hear what the officials there